Karen is the first one on our list, and she's going to be talking about her legacy to this area in the form of Bible study, and I understand she has a wonderful one. She's been doing this for 7 years. And I know Karen from a different segment of the population. They come to Athens a good bit. We sit in Athens some, and so I kind of got to know her there before I knew her here. And so it's good to see her in this setting. And the reason we asked these folks to come and do this is so that you could see some people out there doing what they do best and what God has naturally gifted them with, and in the service of others around them, and that would be in the service to you. And I have heard many of you say what a gift she gives to you every time she speaks. And so we are grateful for her gift, and we are grateful for her using that gift in our service. So without further ado, now I'm going to introduce her and let her do her thing, and then we at the end will have a bit of devotion time, meditation time, and this season of Lent. So Karen, we're grateful to have you.
You can call me shepherdess. I come to you from the flock. And I see clients all through. You're all here. God is really laughing at this moment. Isn't it amazing how, this is a little hot, can I just, how ironic God is? Let me tell you why. I received a phone call from Becky, and she said, we want you to come and we want you to show our appreciation for the legacy that you're leading in the Lake community. And I thought, what? And then she said, oh, your Bible study. And it's very ironic, and I'll tell you why. And then maybe it's not so ironic after all, because maybe someone is sitting here tonight who was or is as unqualified to be called as I was. And what a surprise it was, and how long it took to be qualified by God. I was raised an Episcopalian. We went to church every Sunday. Oh, well, no, we didn't. My brother and I found a donut shop. And those were the years, if any of you are familiar with the Episcopal tradition, they didn't have Sunday school. So I grew up without a Sunday school. We didn't have summer vacation Bible school. Well, the Lutherans did that. And I didn't ever go to that. And we didn't have a youth group. Nowadays they have wonderful youth groups in the Episcopal Church. I mean, it's fabulous. But then, no. I went to college and I did not take one class in religion because I knew I'd fail. I majored in gym. I'm not kidding. But I had no long resume. And so why am I here? And I had absolutely I had no training, no qualifications. And here's the kicker. I'm glad David is as far away as he is. I had never opened the Bible. Now there's a lesson there someplace, and that is that you don't qualify yourself. God qualifies you. And I was stunned by it. In 1990, we were finally empty nested. And we moved for the third time back to Houston, oil patch people. And Jim was so challenged and so excited because he joined a part of Exxon International and would gallop all over faraway places. and have extraordinary tales to tell, and he was growing right before my very eyes. He became a world man. I mean, he really grew, and I was so proud of him. At the same time, I was pooped. I finished raising 3 daughters, and 2 had just gotten married, and 1 was in the process of having a wedding soon. And we were newly transplanted again. And Jim was gone, and then God gave me the most wonderful gift. He gave me the gift of time. For the first time in 30 years, just think about that, I had time to ponder. And I realized, as I really thought about who I had become, I was so pleased about some parts of whom I had become: a mother, a wife, friend. But I realized that I checked off insurance forms and doctors' inquiry forms in their offices, that it would say religion, and I would put Episcopalian. And occasionally, I remember very well that wonderful people would come from Africa at Jim's invitation, and we would entertain them. Very educated, smart people that he was dealing with. And upon several occasions, they would lean to the interpreter and say, "Ask Madame if she's a Christian." And I would say, "Oh, yes, I sure am." And then I thought, oh my gosh, if he asked me why, I would say, "Well, because I was a Christian, because." And I realized at that moment in my life, oh, we were 50, Jim. I realized at that moment in my life that there was this big void, and I had been given a gift of time, and I better do something with it. I didn't take it any further than that. Now, you just remember in the back of your mind, I didn't call myself. And you who are sitting there, you're not going to call yourself. It's God's agenda. So I would walk every morning. I'd walk 3 miles around the high school track, very close to our home. And maybe you were like me, I'd get my ducks in a row. My grandmother told me, you get ready for the opportunities of the day. Get ready for the opportunities of the day. And I'm walking that mile, now it's a mile and a half. And this is what I'm going to do today. And I'm going to meet new friends. I'm going to find a church. I'm going to left, right, walking. And it was a wonderful way to start my morning, getting my ducks in a row. And suddenly one morning I was putting my ducks in a row. And somebody somewhere said, go. Go back to school. Go now. And I'm thinking, what? I'm looking around and I'm only one on that track. And I organized my day, and I left, right, around the track, and I hit go. Go now. Go back to school. Several weeks later, and this went on with my walks, go now, go back to school. Several weeks later, I guess, a big quarter-page ad in the Houston Chronicle appeared, and it had this great news. The Houston Women's Institute, a fine school open to the metropolitan area, people kind of my age, old, you know, and kind of who are interested in continuing to learn. It's like a continuing education for older people. And they said that what they were doing that was so stunning this particular year, 1990, they were joining ranks with Rice University. And they were bringing over their top professors, and they were going to teach these classes in a week to come. And it would be like auditing these wonderful professors. And I thought, oh gosh. And right there in front of me, it said Dr. Benjamin, who was the head of the religion department at Rice University, was coming, and he was going to teach something about the importance or the background of the Old Testament. And I picked up the phone call. I was told to go. And so that first day I went to Women's Institute, and I sat by myself as far away from the front as I could get. Way in the back. Dr. Benjamin introduced his course, and I can honestly say that for an hour and a half I didn't understand one word he said. I truly thought he spoke Egyptian. And he had all of these whiteboards, and he was furiously scratching them, and I just knew it was Sanskrit. It was hopeless. So I went home, and I was very sad. Jim's gone, you know, he's in Africa. So I decided I would go back. And then I went back again. And each time I made up my mind that I might move a row closer. But what began to happen to me was that I started filling notebooks. And Jim, you know, upstairs in the scriptural library, I have big notebooks filled, 10 years worth, people. Stacks of everything that he said. I mean, I just couldn't get it down fast enough. I was like that sponge. I was so curious. I could hardly stand it. I was up all night. I mean, Jim was gone. And it was so much fun. And I just soaked in it. At the same time, and I'd never been in a Bible study. I was asked by this mega church in the western side of Houston, down at what they call the Memorial area, very large. It was a Presbyterian church. I'd never heard of a mega church before, but this thing was big. And they asked if I would be a small lecture leader to one of their groups in their Bible fellowship study. It was the largest one in the whole metropolitan area of Houston. I mean, there were at least 400 to 500 women every Thursday. I had never seen anything like it. And so I was sure, and I stepped into 30 women who had spent years being steeped in the Word. Grounded, wonderful Christian women who stayed steeped in the Word. Some much older, some much younger, marvelous people. And there I was, and I was told that I was to facilitate. And I loved it. Oh, I loved those people. Every one of those people, 3 years later, became the first Fleece's flock. Isn't that amazing what God's agenda really is? They helped me and they lifted me up, and they would very kindly, sweetly tell me how big a mistake I had just made when I said, no, it's true. I wasn't qualified. But I didn't choose to be there. God chose me to be there. And then a very interesting thing happened. I was still studying. I was still taking all these courses with wonderful professors from Rice. Oh my goodness, life-changing. I was asked one day if I would just consider taking over the large lecture for the whole 400 or 500 people every week, because the leader was stricken with something horrible happened to her health, and she was hospitalized, and she was in and out for 3 months. It was bad. And at first I thought they were kidding. And I stepped into, well, I said yes. I still don't know why I said yes. Jim, you probably don't know either. What was wrong with me? I don't know. But I can tell you it wasn't my decision. I had nothing to do with it. I wasn't qualified. But there I was, and there were 400 or 500 women every Thursday, and I was to give the large lecture. And It was very easy, I found, because it was all rote. It was a member of the National Bible Fellowship Study of America or something, and they set out everything you were supposed to say. It was right there. It was rote, and all I had to do was speak it. That was a lot of fun. So about 2 times. And very quickly, I felt the biggest desire and need and curiosity to jump out of the box. I don't know how else to say it. Why couldn't I bring in Shakespeare? Why couldn't I bring in Handel and Beethoven? Why couldn't I talk about Elie Wiesel? Why couldn't I talk about what Frederick Buechner would say, or C.S. Lewis? Or why can't I bring all the saints that I've been studying in ancient history under Dr. Benjamin's tutelage? Why couldn't I just grab it and run with that mic and bring all these 400 women under some kind of amazing experience? But I was told I had to read this speech. The first time I got out of the box with the group, this is how I did it that night. Jim was gone. I was terrorized. You have no idea how badly frightened I was. And I couldn't sleep. I stayed up all night long, and this is true. I wrote the outline of what I wanted to say on toilet paper. I'm being very truthful because I couldn't get off the pot. No, I wasn't qualified. No one had been less qualified to stand in front of those mighty women, I'm telling you. First time I spoke, I got a standing ovation. And I remember turning around to see who it was for. I mean, I was so stunned. I had no idea what I was saying. Really, really. I mean, the toilet paper tore, and I showed them. I was here as it is, and the whole toilet paper just rolled down in front of them. And I'm sure that I got across that I broke the mold. That's how it began, and that's why it's so ironic, isn't it, that I'm here? Me. And I learned that you don't call, God calls you. And God did not even care if I didn't have a resume. I'm really sure about that now. And He slowly qualified me. He put me in the mentorship of these brilliant professors who challenged me. And one day, one of them grabbed me by the back of my neck and just leaned over and shouted in my ear, "Don't you know knowledge is wasted if it sits in your mind? Now go teach." And I was so frightened I didn't go back to class for several days. I mean, that's where I came from before I became the shepherdess, thanks to Lynn Roach, who gave me that name. I'm so proud to be the shepherdess of the flock. And I continued doing some of the large lectures whenever the leader got sick. And the whole time something was in the back of my head. Well, you could teach your own group. Teach your own group, and then you know what you can do, Karen? You can write your own stuff. You go ahead and read all these wonderful commentaries, old, cutting edge. Go through the notes from all the professors. Oh, these men are fabulous. But then put it in your own words and send that message from your heart and see if anybody's even interested in caring. I mean, so I went to the pastor of this huge church, and I was very brave, and I said, "This is what I would like to do. I'd like to start a class teaching a book. Do you think you could help me with microphones, with tables, chairs, screens, with whiteboards, And I went on, and he just sat back and he rolled his eyes. And he said, here's my answer. Yes, yes, yes. And he went down the whole list of requests I had. And then I had to recoup because I was sweating so badly that I knew all my makeup would, it was just awful. And then he asked me a question and he said, and Karen, what are you going to teach? And I said, oh, the book of Hebrews. And he jumped up and he said, absolutely not. It's too hard for you. You're too inexperienced. Mature pastors all around the world refuse to speak about the book of Hebrews. I'm not going to let you go there. We don't want any failures here. And so I went home. And then I went back 5 times. And on the 5th time, I got everything I wanted. Plus, they did all the advertising. Hot on the heels of Hebrews is the way they advertised it. And they had footprints racing across these posters. And just on right on the edge was this flirty little blonde with glasses holding up a Bible, just running, and then down below was saying, run the race of life. And then I had to write. But I had to do it. And I read and read and read and read, and I picked up one commentary, picked up another, maybe 30 during that time. I mean, it was just overwhelming, and I was so out of my element. And something wonderful happened to me. A small book by a gentleman whose name was Tom Long. He was connected with Princeton, wasn't he, at that time? And he wrote a book, David, the commentary on the book of Hebrews. And I was so sad. I was so disappointed because I hadn't let myself down. I'd let God down. And I'm telling you, that didn't feel very good. So I just kind of browsed through this, and then I read it again. I read it again, and I couldn't believe it. Every single thing this wonderful scholar, he's one of the best speakers one of the best speaking pastors in America, isn't he? He's so outstanding. He just changed my life. I mean, just like that. Yes, I was going to teach, and I had a source, and I could do it. And I did. And I broke it into, I don't know what was wrong with me, 22 classes. Can you imagine donating that much of your time? I mean, I wasn't qualified. I didn't know. 22 classes. And the pastor and his group of people said, we're sending out the announcement in flyers, and we're sending it to our entire, how many people were in the church, Jim, at that time? Thousands of, just, I mean, scary stuff. And they all got that, and then he said, we're going to make a special flyer, we're going to send it to every member of the Bible Fellowship who knows you. And anyone in there who is looking for a deeper kind of learning, a less rote kind of learning, maybe they'll be interested. Well, they came in droves, and the first day the place was filled. They gave me an old, empty fellowship hall. I mean, the place was huge. And they brought in tables after tables and chairs and microphones and real quickly, I want to tell you about my first experience with that. 3 men were seated right up front the day that I was beginning. I had to be learned how to mic. They insisted that everything be taped. I had something running in and out of my ear. They came up through the back of my shirt, down here, put something here, had things on the side of my, it was just a new experience. I knew I was going to fail anyway, so it did, And 3 men were right there, didn't know I'm older. And just before time to start, and they had me already do counting 1, 2, 3, big hall. They came up and they very gently turned me to the back wall. Just turned me, and they came with me, and they stood in front of me, and they just smiled at me, and they said, and I thought, oh my gosh, they're firing me, and I haven't even said a word. And one dear man just leaned over and whispered in my ear, and he said, "Carrie, your shirt isn't buttoned." I mean, that's the mess I was in. I had on a white silk shirt, and all these gizmos that I'd never heard of before, and there I was. Welcome to the first class. And they were so sweet. They just surrounded me with their love. I mean, people were always showing up. They were like angels, just surrounding me so I could dress. And at that moment I decided, this is so funny, and God is laughing so hard. Either I know the product or I don't. And I remember saying, and by golly, I know this product. And I've worked hard to be here. I really worked hard. I didn't sleep. I mean, it was just amazing. Being qualified is not an easy task, I'm here to tell you. So I stepped up to the mic and began. It was wonderful. It's wonderful.